In the 1800s, Britain harbored a severe, almost embarrassing national obsession with exactly one foreign commodity: Chinese tea. That obsession created a massive mathematical problem. The Qing government had absolutely no interest in British wool, cotton, or manufactured goods. China had everything it needed and demanded payment for tea in exactly one currency: silver. The British government soon found itself facing a devastating cash flow crisis. To balance the books, they had two options: find a new product the Chinese market actually wanted to buy, or pivot to a highly illegal alternative. They were buying themselves into bankruptcy. The British Empire's greatest economic vulnerability was a crippling cash flow deficit caused entirely by a beverage. The East India Company, which governed British India, looked at this deficit and engineered a ruthless corporate solution. If the target market refuses to buy your goods, you vertically integrate a new supply chain to manufacture demand from scratch. The first step happened in their colony of Bengal. The company forced local farmers to abandon food crops and grow opium poppies instead, buying the entire harvest at a fixed, artificially low price. In this flowchart, the company gathered opium, auctioning it to private middlemen in Calcutta for plausible deniability. These merchants smuggled the illegal cargo to the Chinese coast, exchanging it for silver. Smugglers funneled that silver back to the company to buy Britain's tea. This entire system operated as a state-sponsored, vertically integrated cartel. It was designed from the ground up to launder illegal drug money into afternoon tea. By the 1830s, the volume of this operation reached an absurd scale. Private British merchants were pushing roughly 1,400 tons of opium into China every single year, creating an estimated 4 million addicted users. China repeatedly tried to stop this influx. The Qing government issued 4 separate, increasingly severe legal bans over the course of a century, escalating all the way to the death penalty for trafficking. Meanwhile, the British Parliament stood by its official stance. Because the East India Company used middlemen, politicians in London could defend the operation with a completely straight face, insisting they were simply facilitating free trade. The business model scaled so ruthlessly that it created a massive public health crisis across a sovereign nation, all while the perpetrators remained heavily shielded by parliamentary paperwork and bureaucratic doublespeak. In 1839, the Chinese government sent an incorruptible scholar and official named Lin Zexu to Canton, giving him absolute authority to permanently dismantle the opium trade. Lin initiated an immediate aggressive crackdown. He arrested local dealers, locked down the foreign merchants' trading compound, and refused to let anyone leave until they surrendered over 2.5 million pounds of opium. He then orchestrated a massive, deliberate destruction of the product. Over 23 days, workers dug vast coastal trenches, mixed the opium with lime and salt to dissolve it completely, and flushed the entire inventory out to sea. Before resorting to physical destruction, Lin had attempted diplomacy. He wrote a personal letter to the woman in this portrait, Queen Victoria, begging her to stop exporting a poison that was heavily restricted back in her own country. The letter went unread. China utilized perfectly legal sovereign authority to enforce its own laws on its own soil. Yet, by doing so, they triggered the exact military conflict Lin desperately tried to avoid. The destruction of the opium gave the British Parliament exactly what it wanted. They seized upon the event as a convenient pretext, declaring a war over the loss of British property. The justification caused fierce moral outrage at home. As you can see in this engraving, a young William Gladstone stood in the House of Commons and furiously denounced the conflict, declaring that Britain had raised a pirate flag to protect an infamous traffic. The resulting conflict was catastrophic. The Royal Navy arrived with dark, ironclad steam gunboats and modern artillery, easily devastating China's coastal defenses, which were largely comprised of wooden war junks from a century earlier. The British Empire deployed overwhelming, devastating state military power to act as the violent enforcement arm of a private drug cartel. By 1842, China was forced to sign the Treaty of Nanking, shown here. The punishing terms required China to pay massive financial indemnities, open its ports to foreign merchants, and outright cede the island of Hong Kong to Britain. A second war a few years later forced China to completely legalize opium as a traded commodity. Lin Zexu's life's work of defending his nation's health was entirely undone by treaty. Looking at this early photograph of the Hong Kong waterfront, it serves as a stark reminder that one of the modern world's greatest financial hubs exists today, specifically because of a drug smuggling dispute. The constant invocation of free trade served as a principled disguise for a meticulously designed business model, one that intentionally traded mass human devastation for global economic dominance.